Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. On Fridays, we talk about the product owner role in Scrum. We talk about patterns and anti-patterns that relate to ours and the team's collaboration with the product owner. And we've also put together a course to help you navigate that relationship. There's 18 modules, nearly 8 hours of tools, techniques, videos, handouts, presentations you can use to help you and your team work better with your product owner. The course is available at bit.ly/coachyourPO. All lowercase, all one word, that's bit.ly.
Hello everybody, welcome to our Product Owner and DGIF episode with Linda van Zinten. Hi Linda, welcome back.
Hi Vasco.
So Fridays are Product Owner Day here on the podcast, of course, because we want to understand how we can create that partnership and help the product owner, which is such a critical role in the Scrum framework. So let's start first with a bad example. We'll talk about a great example later on to end the week on a high. But first, let's start with what might have been, Linda, the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
I don't know if it was really because of the product owner, but it was a product owner that had no say in what the team was doing. I was talking about it before, that stories were created for the team and also when to do it, and that there were like 20 projects running at the same time. And in that environment, I noticed that the PO couldn't really do much. There were all projects running. All those projects had their own project lead, and they already agreed with their stakeholders on what needed to be done by when, and that was fed into the teams. And yeah, there was a product owner.
And the product owner, was it expected that the product owner would just keep track that the team was doing whatever they were asked to do? Like, what was the role of the PO in that particular context?
It was also not really made clear. It was also a PO of 4 or 5 teams at the same time. And those teams were totally different teams. Yes, they were working on the same product, but they had no link to each other whatsoever. So there's also the time aspect. So far, the only thing, if the team couldn't say no hard enough, then the PO was saying no for the team. That's, I think, the most important thing that he then still did.
So it was basically a PO that when things were really difficult, he would come in, or she would come in and help the team to say no, basically. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because priorities were created by the team, and also the first saying no was done by the team. And if shit hit the fan, then yeah, the product owner would come in and start discussing and saying no a bit louder than the team maybe.
This reminds me that the product owner is really a key role in Scrum. And I mean, you talked about it earlier. If an environment is not conducive to Scrum, right, like where Scrum really doesn't apply because of whatever other policies are in place, then the product owner role kind of loses its meaning, right? Because the product owner is there to clarify the vision, to create a clear set of priorities, to help the team focus. And if the product owner can't do that, then one might even ask, why do we have a product owner? Well, because SAFe says so.
Yeah, that's what it looked like a bit indeed, because according to Scrum, you should have one. But yeah, then we had also one for so many teams, which were all different.
And for us as Scrum Masters, it also highlights that we should set up the environment, or at least try to help set up the environment where the roles of Scrum make sense, right? Well, not just Scrum Master role, but also the product owner role. This particular case is a great example of an environment that needs to change for the product owner role to have an impact, to have a meaning for the team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And luckily we were able to show that it needed to change. And luckily they were looking into, because there were all these different products and they were talking to the stakeholders directly. So looking into, could they probably be PO and have their own team, and would it work then? Because then you would have the right relationship of a person talking to stakeholders, defining what had to be done and by when, defining some kind of a roadmap, and then having a team of which that person is part to together see what can be done. And then you get the right relationship, because now it was just a throw over the wall kind of a relationship, because there was almost a wall in between the project lead and the teams. It was being said like, I put it in Jira, and so now they have to do it.
Yeah, it's almost like waterfall, right? Jira just replaces the Gantt chart.
Yeah, so that's I think that's the worst one.
All right, so now we turn our attention to the opposite, the mirror image of this. What might have been, Linda, the best product owner you've ever worked with? Describe them for us.
I'm personally kind of a chaotic person, and that product owner was a really, really well organized person. So that was one thing that I really admire because of my lack of organization. But he also always had a really good overview. He knew exactly what stakeholder wants, what needed to go first, and he always kept the team also really involved in that. It was not like a god saying, and this is the way to go and you have to do it, but really involving the team in also the issues that were at play, and saying, okay, stakeholder wants this. I don't know exactly, what do you think? Should we go with this or that? But in the end, he took that information and also took the decision. So the team was not bothered with the politics around the discussions with the stakeholder and what should go first and what next. But they were involved, which I like a lot.
So one of the things that I come to think about is that there's a lot of value in product owner and team kind of discussing a lot of things together, and even perhaps writing stories together, like almost like building the story for the product together, so that they are actors in that definition. But you talked about protecting the team from certain stakeholder interaction. How did this product owner do that? Because otherwise, if you do that too much, you are also preventing the team from knowing what's going on, right?
Yeah, not too much, but sometimes there's some, I call it always politics in there. So there's some ways, you don't want to involve the team with the political game of what should go first and what should go next. So that's why I say he kind of guarded the team from that game. But he kept them involved so that you still feel the ownership for the product. Because if a PO doesn't involve the team in the ideas and in the roadmap and everything, then you don't get the team's involvement in the product, and it feels like it's not theirs, which makes it really hard to really commit and go for it and self-organize around it.
And if you think about this involvement, what was it that the PO was doing? What were the concrete things, the approaches that the PO was using that helped the team feel that they were indeed being involved?
Well, I think what he did is that he dared to be critical, but he was also fair. So he dared to be critical on if they said something had to be done or not to be done, and also towards the stakeholder. But I also once had a PO that said, I could do it in half the time, but this one wasn't that way. He was really fair and listening to the people and understanding, just being curious. I think that's also the right word, being curious and asking the right questions, but dare to be critical as well, and not always say, okay, if you say so, then it should be. Dare to ask the nasty questions as well.
When you think about asking the nasty questions, of course, the first thing that comes to mind is exactly what you said as the anti-pattern, right? Like, I could have done this in half the day, especially product owners that have been technical team members before. But can you give an example of like what were the type of things this PO was perhaps skeptic and critical about, and that was okay?
The gold plating. So the teams that often said, well, we also have to make this and we have to do this. And he could really pinpoint very well and ask the questions and make the team realize when they were gold plating. But that, I think you know what I mean, right? That they want to make it extra nice and fun and looking really smashing. But that was not in the favor of the stakeholder because they first wanted to give it a try, and it doesn't have to be perfect yet. So we was really critical there and asking them the questions of, okay, but yeah, if I want it by then, it doesn't have to be this pretty. What can we leave out? And that it still would have the right quality that the team was okay with. So be critical on the minimal valuable product. I think that's how we call it.
And you call it a minimum valuable product. And I would like to say that it's also one of the core aspects of Agile, which is helping the team focus on getting to feedback quickly, right? Whatever that feedback is. And sometimes it is about avoiding gold plating. Other times it might be something else, like involving another team that they need to work with, or doing a paper prototype, or whatever that is. But really focusing on helping the team get to that feedback quickly. I think it's a really superpower for product owners.
Yeah, and it's not always easy because developers often created something which is kind of their baby. It's something they made themselves, so they don't always want to be critical on what should and shouldn't go in. Sometimes they really like this part, so let us build it. Well, yeah, it's not the most important one. So first focus indeed on the other one to get feedback there, and then you know better how to build this other part. I think, yeah, as a good PO, you should be critical on that and ask the right questions, but still be fair and listen also to the team and don't force your opinion on them.
Absolutely. Well, Linda, we're close to the end. It's been a pleasure to have you here on the podcast. Thank you for sharing all of those insights. But before we go, where can people find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
On my LinkedIn page, I think. I do have a website, but it's still under construction and it doesn't work well yet for the creative elephant. It's work in progress, but Christmas holidays are coming and I'm in quarantine now, so there is some time to work on that.
Absolutely. And we're definitely happy to hear that you still feel healthy, even though you are in quarantine. And that's very important.
Yeah, exactly.
Linda, it's been a pleasure. We'll put the link on the show notes, both to the LinkedIn as well as the Creative Elephant Company, your company's website. We'll put the link on the show notes so that people can easily find it. And of course, get in touch and why not ask questions from Linda and give feedback about her own stories and what she shared here on the podcast. So, Linda, thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Yeah, thanks to you as well. And if you indeed have questions, feel free to contact me. I am always open and curious to new ideas of other people.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over. But there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. Join us at scrummastertoolbox.com/podcast and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more week full of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.